In 865 AD, a legend died screaming. Ragnar Lothbrok, the Viking hero, was thrown into a pit of vipers by King Ælla of Northumbria. As the venom coursed through his veins, Ragnar's last words weren't a plea for mercy, but a prophecy. He roared that his sons would avenge him. Across the North Sea, in the cold lands of Scandinavia, his sons heard the news, and the world would soon tremble. This is the story of the most brutal revenge in medieval history, a saga of blood, fire, and the birth of a New England. Ragnar's death wasn't an end, it was the spark that lit an inferno. His eldest son, Ivar the Boneless, a man whose mind was as sharp as his body was frail, became the architect of this vengeance. They said he couldn't walk, that he was carried on a shield, but his strategic genius would carry an entire army to victory. Alongside his formidable brothers, Halfdan Ragnarsson and Ubba, Ivar began to assemble a force the likes of which Europe had never seen. This wasn't just another Viking raid for gold and glory. This was different. This was personal. They called it the Great Heathen Army. From the fjords of Norway, the forests of Sweden, and the shores of Denmark, thousands of warriors answered the call. Old rivalries were set aside, united by a singular purpose: to make England pay for the death of their king. By the time they set sail, over 5,000 Vikings were packed into a fleet of longships that stretched across the horizon. This was an invasion force. In the autumn of 865, the Great Heathen Army landed on the shores of East Anglia. The local king, terrified, didn't fight. Instead, he paid them to leave, offering them horses and supplies for the winter. It was a fatal mistake. He had just equipped the very army that would tear his world apart. Ivar wasn't interested in East Anglia, not yet. His eyes were fixed on the north, on Northumbria, the kingdom of Ælla. The Anglo-Saxon kingdoms of England were a fractured mess, constantly at war with each other. Northumbria itself was caught in a bitter civil war between two rival claimants to the throne, Ælla and Osbert. Ivar saw this division and exploited it with ruthless precision. He knew that a kingdom divided against itself could not stand. On All Saints' Day, November 1st, 866, while the city's leaders were at church, the Vikings stormed the walls of York, the capital of Northumbria. The city fell almost without a fight. The Northumbrians were stunned. Their civil war suddenly seemed trivial. Ælla and Osbert, the bitter rivals, finally agreed to a truce to combine their forces and retake their capital. They marched on York, confident they could drive the invaders out, but Ivar was a master of tactics. He allowed the Anglo-Saxon army to breach the city's crumbling walls, luring them into the narrow, confusing streets. Once inside, the trap was sprung. The Vikings, masters of close-quarters combat, emerged from every alley and doorway. The battle turned into a slaughter. Both Osbert and Ælla were cut down in the chaos. But for Ælla, death on the battlefield would have been a mercy. Ivar had other plans for his father's killer. King Ælla was captured alive. He was dragged before Ivar and the sons of Ragnar. The time for vengeance had arrived. What followed has been debated by historians for centuries, but the sagas are chillingly clear. They performed the blood eagle. This wasn't just an execution. It was a ritual, a horrific sacrifice to their god, Odin. The king was laid face down, with a sharp blade. His ribs were methodically severed from his spine, one by one. Then, they were pulled outwards, wrenched from his torso to form a pair of grotesque, bloody wings. The final act was to pull his lungs out through the opening in his back. The sagas claim that as he took his last breaths, his lungs would have fluttered on his shoulders, like the wings of a great eagle. This was the price for killing Ragnar Lothbrok. With their vengeance complete, you might think the Great Heathen Army would pack up and go home. But they were just getting started. The death of Ælla had been the catalyst, but the true goal was conquest. The army turned south, carving a path of destruction through the heart of England. They overran the kingdom of Mercia, forcing its king to flee. They conquered East Anglia, whose king, Edmund, was martyred after refusing to renounce his faith. He was tied to a tree and used for archery practice before being beheaded. For years, no one could stop them. They were more than just raiders. They were a disciplined army that used siege warfare, built fortified camps, and fought with a strategic intelligence that baffled the Anglo-Saxons. After Ivar's death, leadership passed to another Viking warlord, Guthrum. He led the army deeper into Wessex, the last surviving Anglo-Saxon kingdom, ruled by a young king named Alfred. Alfred was pushed to the brink of total defeat, forced to hide in the marshlands of Somerset. But he famously rallied his forces and, against all odds, defeated Guthrum's army at the Battle of Edington in 878. This victory didn't drive the Vikings out of England, but it did lead to a historic peace treaty. The treaty established what came to be known as the Danelaw. A line was drawn across England, from London to Chester. Everything to the northeast of that line was officially Viking territory. A third of England was now ruled by Danes, under Danish law. Guthrum himself was baptized as a Christian and became king of his own realm in East Anglia. This was the beginning of one of the largest migrations in Scandinavian history. The warriors of the Great Heathen Army didn't just conquer, they settled. They put down their axes and picked up plows. They brought their families, their language, their customs, and their laws. They became farmers and traders, intermarrying with the local Anglo-Saxon population. The legacy of the Great Heathen Army and the Danelaw is etched into the very landscape of England today. Travel through the north and east of England, and you'll find hundreds of place names ending in Abai, meaning village, or Authorpe, meaning hamlet, or Outtoft, meaning homestead. Places like Grimsby, Derby, and Lowestoft are all echoes of this Viking past. Their legal concepts influence the English system, and their language infused Old English with countless new words, like law, sky, window, and even they, their, and them, and, of course, their DNA. Genetic studies show a clear Scandinavian heritage in the populations of northern England, a living testament to the settlers who followed in the army's wake. The revenge of Ragnar's sons was a brutal, bloody affair. But it did more than just satisfy a quest for vengeance. It shattered the old Anglo-Saxon world and forged a new one from the pieces. It reshaped the political map, the culture, the language, and the very people of England. The Great Heathen Army came for revenge, but they stayed and built a legacy that changed the course of English and world history forever. Thanks for watching. If you found this story of vengeance and conquest fascinating, be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more epic tales from history. See you next time.